Okay, so let me switch over to our PowerPoint and we'll start there. Let me just share my screen. All right, so our Bellingham remote learning plan. So our goal and our mission is to provide students with instruction on content that is aligned with their grade level standards, okay? We want to make sure and ensure that all students participate in learning that is made accessible to them. We're going to provide virtual meetings and live chats to keep students connected to the content and to each other. And we're going to continue to maintain relationships and connections with students and families. We're also going to maximize the opportunities to work with all students on the most essential learning that we can do over this time that we're in closure. And we're going to try to minimize any skill or learning regression. I sent out a guidance to teachers a couple of weeks ago on this plan so that they could start to prepare for the remote learning process. And what I've told them were 4 key points. And the 4 points are to support students and to engage in meaningful and productive learning for approximately half the length of a regular school day. And we took this directly from the guidance from the Department of Education. We also want to consider ways to engage students offline in activities like projects or artistic creation. So we don't want our students to be online all day. As an example for myself, I've been on this computer all day and my eyes are burning. I think it's something that, we want to try to avoid. We do need to have them connected at some point throughout the day, but we also want them to do some stuff offline. It's also important, reiterated with the staff, that we be flexible during the remote learning time. So students have time to connect with one or more educators. So during this period, all of us need to be flexible in how we approach this. There's no easy answers to any of this, and it's things that are going to take time for us to develop and continue to work on as we move forward. And we want to make sure that we provide feedback on the work that's completed for students. And that may turn into a pass or no pass, or credit, no credit. But what I told teachers today is that if students submit some work that they don't find meets the quality of the standard, I want them to send that work back to kids and give them an opportunity to redo that work, provide feedback for them to complete it in a way that they feel more appropriate. So constant contact and feedback, I think, is critical during this time, and giving kids and families the opportunity to be flexible and provide time for them to get the work completed and ask questions. So that's what was given to the staff. Special education, of course, it's very important for our kids. So special education services will be provided, but they'll be provided differently. They'll look different. Services will be individualized, prioritizing the student needs through the remote learning and service plan. One thing to note, though, we will not be holding virtual IEP meetings. That's something, again, from the DESE that we felt that we should not be providing right now. I don't think it'd be equitable or fair, so we won't be doing that at this time. I know many of you may have had scheduled IEP meetings. We will work together to figure out how to approach those in the future. So our teachers are going to be using 2 platforms. So these are 2 platforms that I reiterated with the staff that are mandatory that they utilize. So pre-K to 2, they'll be using Seesaw. In grades 3 through 12, they're going to use Google Classroom. Teachers can also use other apps and other opportunities like Google Chats, Meet, phone calls, any other app that we can use that we approve of at the district level. We would encourage them to utilize. There's not just one opportunity for kids and teachers to connect. Excuse me, there's many. So we want them to be comfortable in whatever they use and use it effectively. So during this time, our teachers will continue to provide those enrichment opportunities, but also that additional content through those platforms. So again, that's the extension of the content. So the first couple of weeks that we were on that closure was really just maintenance of the current content that they were exposed to. Now there'll be new content that's pushed out. Teachers will be available to connect with students who need additional support or assistance. We've asked teachers to create these office hours where they can connect. And again, we'll be flexible during this time to ensure that all students, every student, has access to this curriculum. We want every student to be able to access the content and the work that's going to be posted for them over over the next couple of weeks. We all need to help our students engage in meaningful and productive learning, and this can be through a combination of educator-directed learning, like I mentioned earlier, but also student self-directed experiences. So that's what I mentioned earlier about offline opportunities. We want students to participate in all of these opportunities provided by their teachers to further learning to the best of their ability.
I was trying to shut it off.
By pushing the button.
Sorry, I get somebody who's on.
Just listen and go in there for a minute.
It's like probably an hour.
Here we go. Okay. We must be flexible. We want to make sure that there's plenty of time for students to access their teachers for questions for additional support. And teachers will also be providing feedback, like I mentioned earlier, on work that's submitted. So students at the secondary level, this could result in that credit, no credit opportunity that I talked about. It may entail that our transcripts look differently, and we'll walk through that as we get a little bit further, and I'll work with the administrators at the secondary level to figure that piece out. I think it's really important that we all be patient and understanding during this closure, and I've reiterated this again with staff. This is totally different and something that, you know, I don't want to say that we're not prepared for. I think we did a lot of work up front to get to this point where we're at now. We're in a really good place in regards to providing the platform and the educational piece, but by any means we weren't ready for something to this extent. So we got to be patient and understanding, and we're going to meet students where they are and help them to make adjustments if needed. We won't be able to cover all of our material. It's just not possible in that shortened day and through the online platform, but we'll do our best to move forward with the new content. So remote learning isn't virtual learning. It's a different way of looking at providing content through different ways, whether it be through our computers or through our Chromebooks, but also through outside experiences and opportunities. And we're going to continue to follow the guidelines from the Department of Education and our state and local Board of Health. So right now, the guidance is that we're going to come back to school May 4th, potentially. Could that be extended? Very well could be. I'm not sure. I have another meeting with the Department of Education next week where we're going to get a little bit more information. But you know, I anticipate that this may go a little bit longer, but I'm not sure. So we're going to continue to listen to the authorities above us to help make the best decisions possible. One, I think, really important thing I wanted to touch upon today is that we've got this great opportunity with our food service program. We're happy to continue providing meals to our students. We can now provide meals for all children, Bellingham children 18 and under in need, effective immediately. So what that means is on Mondays, any student, any family can go to BMS, to our middle school. There's a drive-up area that you can pull up on. On Monday, you can pick up 2 breakfasts and 2 lunches. And on Wednesday, you can pick up 3 breakfast and lunches if you want, which means you'll have 5 meals to cover the school week. It's a grab and go, and it's from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. There's no application needed, no student IDs. You just come up, ask for the meals, and they'll be given to you, and you can move on. So that's an opportunity for all of our students and all of our families to participate in and take advantage of. So I hope that's something you can do. A couple of areas that I just wanted to highlight around some continued concerns and questions. One is April vacation. That's coming upon us quickly. I had a school committee meeting last night, and we started to have the discussion of April vacation. There's a couple of opportunities that we're going to look at. One is, do we cancel April vacation and work through the break? Another opportunity is, do we continue with the break, or do we go with some hybrid model where we maybe utilize a couple of days for learning and then a couple of days for extended break over the weekends? And I think the rationale around it is to continue with some sort of work over break is that it continues the learning. Kids are gaining some momentum in what they're learning, and we don't want them to lose that, especially since these first 2 weeks are going to be critical in how we move forward. But we also understand that kids and our faculty need some break too. So that's why the possibility of doing some hybrid model will be discussed. So we're having another school committee meeting tomorrow night, 6:15, that we'll talk a little bit more deeply in that. Also, MCAS, I'm still waiting for an advisory from the Department of Ed on MCAS. The state of Massachusetts did apply for a waiver on the MCAS exam. So that's step one. And that, from what I understand, they were approved for the waiver. And that is to either postpone it or remove it from this school year. The second part is that it has to go through the legislature, and they have to vote on it to approve the Commissioner of Education to make changes to the current MCAS schedule. So we're still waiting on more information. And then for our seniors, what are we going to do with our senior activities, prom, graduation, and sports? Those are all things we're still looking at. I can tell you now that we have contacted vendors that we partner with for senior activities, just to see if this was to be extended. Are there opportunities for us to move some dates? Our goal is not to cancel anything. That's the last thing we want to do. But to maybe move some things out, try to get as much opportunities for our seniors to participate in these great events that they love to do and deserve to do. But realize that we'll have to play it by ear, and we'll have to go with the guidance from the state. So if the mandate is to continue with the social distancing and no huge gatherings, that's going to be an issue. So we'll look to see if we can push some things out, possibly into the summer, maybe into the fall. We'll have to kind of see how it goes. And same thing with sports. We're still waiting. We did get a guidance from the MIAA that sports potentially could start that week of May 4th. Again, we'll see if that changes. So we're all doing the best we can. Let's be safe and healthy through this unprecedented time. Again, it is unbelievable where we're at. I've never experienced anything like this in my years in education, and I know that my colleagues are in the same, feel the same way. So at this point, I want to switch it over to questions, and I think I saw some already pop up. So let me jump on the chat feature. I'm going to thank you. Thank for the communication and academic plan during this time. I work in another district and have family members who teach elsewhere. I think you were thoughtful of educators and families. Very well done. My kids feel connected to their teachers, finding activities to engage, and I applaud the entire ministry. Thank you so much. That's a very nice compliment. I appreciate that. I think that when we entered into this closure, the administrative team and our teachers, we all felt like we needed to be, mindful of not just that the kids need to continue to learn, but the amount of stress that this is going to put on families and on kids, the level of anxiety, the level of, unsuredness. We wanted to be sure that we kept that in mind. So yes, we want to, continue with the content, continue with their education, but we also want them to have time to decompress and understand what's going on. For some of them, it's very difficult. Another question, any plans for SAT exams? I know the May exam has been canceled. I have not heard anything else moving forward with rescheduling or what the future dates may be. So we'll keep you informed as we find out more. Okay. Will this grading process hurt the juniors and seniors applying for colleges with the GPA? I don't believe it will. I think that colleges will be understanding of the process that's happened. They've had to have closures also. So we'll make sure that we provide them with as much information as we can on for kids on where their GPA is. Just take that off with their kids and provide as much data as they can. We'll play that by ear, and we'll make sure that we're in touch with colleges to be on the same page. Let's see. Let's see if I have another question. Besides Google Classroom, is there anything else he needs to do? Anything I need to do? So Mrs. Rafferty put together a resource page, and it's on our website. I believe I'm going to unmute her so she can actually add to it. Maybe I'll unmute her. There we go.
Thank you. You did
You're welcome.
unmute me.
So she put together a tremendous resource page for teachers, but also for families. And if you want to talk a little bit about that resource page, Mrs. Rafferty, that'd be great.
Sure, absolutely. So we've been working with the IT department to make sure that as we're pushing resources out to families, that there are supports for families. There are different tabs on the website. The first one is intended for families to access, and then there are also some tutorial pages that have to do with accessing Seesaw, accessing Google Classroom. But we are requiring all teachers to push work out through those two platforms so that as parents, you're not having to chase down information all over the place. So you can communicate with your students' teachers, your child's teachers through Seesaw or through Google Classroom. And we'll continue to put some updates there. So check back to that website on a regular basis, maybe at least once a week, and see what other resources are up there. There's also a COVID-19 social emotional support page. So if you or your child are experiencing and want some supports for the social emotional aspects of it, there are lots of videos and resources, and our counseling department across the district has been sending information to me to post on that page. So we're really trying to use that remote learning website as a support for all of our teachers and our families throughout this closure. Thank you, Mr. Morano.
Thank you. I'm going to leave you unmuted, and I also unmuted Mrs. Lawrence just in case. So another question, what about juniors who have APs, SATs, they're overwhelmed with work and unknown about next year and going well? So yeah, that's tough. I mean, I think that juniors who are feeling overwhelmed, one, I know that the high school guidance staff will be reaching out to juniors about coursework, about next year, about managing some of the stress and work that's going on right now. I know that there's an opportunity to take AP exams online, and that will be coming from the high school with a little bit more information. And, I think, again, it's being flexible, and for us as a district in the school, understanding where some of our kids are and how anxious they may feel. So we'll take it one step at a time. And if they're feeling overwhelmed, reach out to the teacher, reach out to your principal so that they can jump in and help, manage some of the coursework and anxiety that they may be feeling and try to help back off on some of that. I'm not sure I understand this question. Will AP exams still count as a regular exam and SATs? So AP exams don't necessarily count as a regular exam. I will have to defer that one to Mrs. Lafayette, but I think that's a question maybe to her. SATs, like I said, they have been canceled for the May date, and we're just waiting to see when they may be put out for maybe. Yes, Mrs. Lawrence.
I've seen a couple of questions, Mr. Morano. One was around the Good Friday. Is that a school working day or a holiday or a religious holiday?
Yeah, so I'm just getting to that question. So Good Friday is a no school day, so there'll be no school on Good Friday.
Okay. And I also saw some questions about what happens to IEPs that were in place that may have expired during the closure. We are in what's called a stay put process, similar to if team meeting wasn't held in time or if we had to reschedule team meetings. So all those goals and objectives are still carrying forward. In terms of those IEPs, we will start, once we get back in school, we'll start looking at rescheduling all of those meetings and developing new IEPs for whatever period we return and then moving forward.
Right.
And there was also a question about what happens, will children be penalized if they're not able to access the remote learning or virtual classrooms due to mental health or social emotional needs? And my recommendation, they would not be penalized, but I would really strongly urge you to get in touch with your child's counselor at whatever school they're attending so that they can help them work through some of these anxieties and frustrations. We know they're real, and we want to be able to help you and your children manage those feelings.
Again, I think it's important to keep those lines of communication open. Another question, other states have canceled the rest of the school year. Has there been similar discussions here in Mass? So we've been taking it slowly with the commissioner. So he talked to us about 2 weeks ago when this first closure, the second closure was put out there to extend to May 4th. And he, didn't provide us any additional information, but he said there is a possibility that we could be closed longer than May 4th and possibly to the end of the year. But that was, again, 2 weeks ago. I don't know if things have changed. I think next week I have another conference call, and I'll probably get more information there. Once I get that info, I absolutely will share it with all of you as quickly as I can. Thank you. Let's see. Are teachers able to see how much time their online platform Seesaw has accessed? Are they able to see progress in areas that need improvement? We use Seesaw platform, but don't always reply once the assignment has been completed. Mrs. Rafferty, maybe you could jump on that one with Seesaw. There you go.
Thank you. I was having trouble getting unmuted. Teachers are able to monitor the progress of the work that's turned in and able to see assignments that are completed in Seesaw. On the remote learning website, there are some parent tutorials on there. So if parents want to learn a little bit more about the features that are available on Seesaw, that's a great place to access some of the tutorials there. But all of the classroom teachers that are using Seesaw are monitoring student progress in there. Many of our students are on iReady as well. So we're monitoring student progress in grades 1 through 5 with iReady. Many of the kindergartners and elementary schools are using a phonics instruction app called Lalilo. And so teachers are able to monitor student progress there. All of those instructional platforms allow teachers to adjust instruction based on how students are performing. So we're also using our literacy and math specialists to monitor student progress on those platforms and make adjustments when students are struggling or need to be accelerated.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wondering what happens when Google Hangouts or Zooms are counterproductive. 6th grade band on a Hangout for an hour where it's too loud. So I'll make sure I pass that along to the music teachers. It does seem to be counterproductive, and make sure that they get that feedback. I do want to say though, so I'm using Zoom tonight. I did purchase it for my own use. I've instructed the staff to use Google Hangouts exclusively. I'm concerned about I'm sure many of you might have seen it in the news, the issues that Zoom is having right now with security. And I don't want to expose our kids to any other, there's enough going on right now. They don't need any more craziness to kind of pop in while they're trying to learn. What about MCAS? Again, the MCAS, I'm not sure yet where we're going with it. Obviously, we've already kind of dipped into the high school MCAS schedule. That's been delayed. I'm not sure yet if MCAS will be delayed further or if it'll be canceled for this school year. So again, I'll be waiting to hear from the commissioner on that. Will the teachers ever do class on a live stream Zoom? Would they ever be able to help the kids struggling with a question in the same way? So yes, we have told staff that they can use Google Hangouts live to do direct instruction and to provide sessions for students. So that is something they will be able to do as they continue to roll this out. Let's see. There was a question about, could we answer that one? What website will this meeting be replayed on? So I'm gonna send this to our director of technology, and we're gonna post it on our district website. So anybody and I'll send it out, I'll send a message out to all families that if they'd like to come back and review it again or weren't able to see it today, they can access through our website. So question, if we do work through April vacation, will that change the last day of school? Yes, it will. So right now, through the guidance from the commissioner, we only have to go to our 185th day. So for most of the schools, that's June 22nd. For the high school, it's June 23rd because they had that one day at the beginning of the first day of school where the fire alarm went off. So if we work through some of the days, we back those off in June. So if we did 2 days over April break, that means we would get out June 18th. And the high school could be out on June 19th. So that's one of the options. Will there be test exams? How will their grades be determined? So there's possibilities for testing and quizzes and exams. And again, their grades will be determined again on that credit, no credit process. there won't be actual grades like A, Bs, and Cs. Those aren't going to happen during the closure. But we're going to keep track and monitor all the work that's been completed and make sure that we assess students appropriately in regards to scheduling for next year and their mastery of content, and then help them work through any issues that they have if they've missed some things. So I'm seeing a lot of comments around April break. They're all over the place. Some are go with the hybrid, some are don't cancel it, some are cancel. So again, tomorrow night we'll walk through that with the school committee and have them decide what the next steps would be. Mrs. Lawrence, this one's for you. I know you mentioned IEP. We're supposed to have an annual meeting in late April. Will the IEP currently in place just cross over until we can meet?
Yes, the IEPs will stay put as is until the meetings are rescheduled upon return to school. I also noticed, Mr. Morano, some questions about related services and how they're going to be provided. Again, using the platforms that Mr. Morano illustrated early on, pre-K to grade 2, we'll be using the Seesaw platforms to provide some of your instruction activities, learning opportunities through your related providers. And 3 and up will be using the Google platforms. Some have already been working together. I know our OT and PT and APE teachers have been providing some remote instructions. They've developed some YouTube videos that have been posted. Kids have been doing some activities across the district. Our goal is to get some of our counseling groups up and running and provide some consultation to you and your children, and also to provide some small group, whole group, or individualized contact with your counselors. And then as we move that forward, we'll move into the other related services, such as speech and language, occupational therapy, physical therapy, specialized reading, whatever those other related services are, using those 2 platforms that Mr. Morano spoke about earlier.
Great. Is there any discussion on doing 1 live session per day and rotate the period? So the high school is working on that now. The department coordinators met, I believe, today, and we're putting together a schedule for that particular question. So question, will a child be penalized for missing a virtual session to stay on task with academic work? They're not going to be penalized. Again, it's about being flexible and working with kids with where they are. We don't want kids to be in front of their devices for 3 hours at a whack during the day. So they won't be penalized. I think, again, it's important to communicate with your teachers, their teachers, of what's going on at home and how much support that they need. As for seniors, how can they complete their credits that are required for graduating if they cannot officially graduate? So again, that's going to be something that we're going to look for guidance from the Department of Ed. They're realizing that there's going to need to be some flexibility. I know that they completed a majority of Q3, and we may use that as the anchor for credits and then complete the rest through this online version through the credit, no credit process, and then make a determination from there on moving forward. But again, it's going to be flexible, and we're going to take it 1 step at a time as we work through it. Mrs. Lawrence, another question for you. For special ed services, what services will we continue to have? Just quick check-in, consult services? Question.
Our goal is to certainly continue with the check-ins. We think that's very important to keep the lines of communication going. We would like to see the consult services come up and running, and that can be through Google Chat, could be through email, could be for whatever you and your service provider decide is most appropriate and convenient. And we hope to be able to provide some services related to whatever children get in terms of like speech, OT, PT, specialized reading, academic support for children at the high school. And that can be done using those 2 platforms, Seesaw and Google, and all the variety of tools within the Google platform. And it can be done as whole groups. It can be done in small groups or individualized. So those will, all the specifics regarding your particular student will be coming to you on the remote student learning and service plan, and we hope to be able to provide those to you over the next few days. Hopefully by the end of next week would be our complete deadline, but you should be starting to receive them from your team chairs and at the buildings at which your children attend.
Let me see. What about electives that the high school students are taking that are causing stress? I would go to Mrs. Lafayette if I can find her. One second. But I think, again, talking to teachers, there she is. There you go, Mrs. Lafayette.
Hi, guys. Yeah, so we meet weekly with all of our school counselors, and we go through any concerns we have that come from families or from students concerning these sorts of things. So if you want to check in with the child's guidance counselor and let us know what's going on, and then we can work to develop a plan. You can always reach out directly with the teacher of the elective too. We've asked our elective teachers to kind of go project-based and think about doing things that students could work at their own pace. So any feedback we get is helpful. So if there's a particular class that's causing stress, we would love to know about it so we can help and we can adjust.
Thank you. If April vacation, another question. If you don't have daily assignments every day from each class, what about an assignment they work on during the week with check-in times from teachers? That's a possibility too over April break. So that's something we'll talk about tomorrow night. Will there be any way for students to get their items in their lockers at the high school? Unfortunately, no, not at this time. We can't let anybody into the buildings. Again, they've been sanitized, and our custodians are the only ones that have been going into the buildings on a rotating basis to make sure things are clean, but also everything's working properly. So until we get some further information, the buildings are going to remain closed. I realize at some point we're going to have to figure out how kids can come in and get their materials and their stuff. So keep in mind when that might. We'll send something up to help with that. Let's see. Is there any talk of using another platform for math and ALA learning besides iReady? I ask because my son is struggling with that one. I hear from other parents that he's not the only one. Mrs. Rafferty, where are you, kid? There you are.
That would be, we've heard from a couple of parents, and I really appreciate it when parents are reaching out to the teachers or reaching out to me directly if your students are having any trouble with any of those platforms. iReady, as with any platform, isn't right for every student, and we definitely want to be flexible. So if you're having some issues, we can explore some alternative assignments. The reason we went with iReady was because it was a platform that the students were already familiar with and we already had access to it, and it helped us to hit the ground running with some resources for our families. So again, I would encourage you to reach out to your child's classroom teacher or reach out to me directly, and we can talk about what other options we have for iReady.
Thank you. What would be the last day of school for seniors? I can't determine yet because I'm waiting to hear more from the Department of Ed. There are some rules around when kids graduate that we have to follow the state guidelines on that and state mandates. So when we get a little more information from the Department of Ed, we'll be able to put that out for parents. I thought that going forward, all student effort work would be graded. Has that changed? So it hasn't changed. It's going to be graded, but on that credit, no credit process. As far as specials, will these be graded? Just like any other course, it'll be in that credit, no credit. Will the last day for seniors change at all? It's possible. I don't know yet. Again, as soon as I hear more from the department, we'll get that out to everybody. I know Rhode Island canceled all their state testing for school year, but does not affect their high school graduates. Could this be the hold up for Mass because we have it as a grad requirement? That exactly is part of the hold up is that it is required for graduation. So it's got to go through the lawmakers to give the commissioner the opportunity to change that ruling for this year. Wondering if they can be scheduled in routine video sessions with teachers and students. I think as everyone gets more comfortable with this, that will happen. Again, it's going to take some time. Mrs. Lawrence, this is another IEP meeting question, but I think you've already covered it. IEP meetings that were scheduled but were canceled due to the closure. Will they be rescheduled, I imagine?
They will be rescheduled upon the return to school. Unfortunately, we don't have any date. We're tentatively returning May 4th, but again, that could change, and we just will play it by ear once we hear exactly what the state determines is our return date, and then we'll go from there.
If we have questions regarding the course selection for next year, who do we contact? I would contact your guidance staff at your school, and they can help you through that process. When will course selection process happening for matriculating 7th graders to the high school? I have not had a chance to discuss this with Mrs. Lafayette. That'll be something on the docket in the next couple of days, but it's going to be happening in the very near future. I know some work has already happened in regard to course selection. If there's no numerical grade for term 4, how will the cumulative grade for the year be calculated? That's a great question. We're going to have to work through and kind of figure that part out. I've seen other districts have taken 89% of quarters 1, 2, 3, and then 10%, 11% of quarter 4 in a different method. So, excuse me, we'll look at all the options and do what's best for our students. If school is canceled until the end of the year, will children be promoted to the next grade level? Yes. Yeah, that's the plan, that students who have successfully met all the requirements, even through this closure, will be moved on to the next grade. With 50% of content covered during the closure and pass-fail grading, what concerns should we have with catching up content prior to moving forward, especially if the closure lasts the entire year? Yeah, that's something that we're going to have to think about as we start the next school year in the fall, is what areas do we need to provide additional support when we start in September? And are there options and opportunities that we'll be able to utilize, whether that could be over the summer, could it be right at the beginning of the school year? We'll have to look at that as it comes up. Go. Is there any guidance for essential working parents in regards to keeping up with the schoolwork? We just ask that you do the best you can and reach out again to your teachers and your principals for support. We're all understanding and going to be flexible, and we know that many of you have to work and you have no option. And reach out to us. We'll help support you the best we can and make sure that you have every opportunity to help your student achieve. Will the guidance counselor set up a time and be checking, if possible, via Google Hangouts video sessions? Might seem nonverbal communication. Yes, so the guidance staff, I've talked to Dr. Chaponi and Mrs. Lafayette earlier. They will be rolling that out very soon to provide, whether it's through Google Hangouts or Google Chats, they're going to be connecting with kids to make sure that they're, again, on target with not only their academics and the course selection for next year, but again, any feelings or anxieties that they have through the rest of this year. So if work is credit, no credit, if a student does poorly in an assignment, will they be given no credit, or will the assignment go against their final grade? So if a student does work and it comes out as no credit because it was done poorly, what I told staff, and I will reiterate this again with them, is that I want them to provide feedback for kids, send the assignment back and ask the student to redo the assignment with some additional support. I don't want to see kids not getting credit. I want to make sure that if they don't get credit, that every avenue has been taken for them to get the credit that they need. So whether it's sending the assignment back, giving them some guidelines or some additional resources to redo the assignment, that's fine. I want kids to have every opportunity to redo assignments to get the full credit and not go with no credit. That doesn't mean that kids can just not do anything for the next, 3 weeks and then hand everything at the end of this closure. They need to be working actively throughout this closure and sending materials in. We've also instructed teachers that if kids aren't sending materials back to their teachers, that there's to contact their principal, who will then contact the student and the parent to see what's going on. So we want to see them actively engaged during this process, and not just, blowing it off for the next couple of weeks and then trying to get all this work done. They need to be working actively during the closure. I hope that answered that question. I have multiple children at BMS. Is it possible to assign the same lesson activity for all grades? I will check in with Mr. Cutler and see if that's an option. I've seen both teachers and students struggling with Google Classroom. Has the district developed guidelines for the use of this platform? Is there any opportunity for training for those who need it? So we did, our tech department has been absolutely outstanding through this closure. They've been amazing. So they have provided online, it's Mr. Garofano, Mrs. Conroy, Mrs. Klemenchuk, and Mrs. Howard have done amazing work with our staff in providing online tutorials on not just Google Classroom, but Seesaw, Google Hangouts, Google Chats, Google Forms. So over the last week and a half, they've done countless trainings for staff. And any staff that needs additional support, all they need to do is reach out to any one of them, and they'll provide it for them. If a parent or a student is struggling, reach out and we'll help you through the process and make sure you have everything you need. How can parents see student progress? I think the best way for right now, until we can figure out how to process it through our SchoolBrains account, is to communicate with your teacher. I've been communicating with my son's teacher via email. Is that still okay? Absolutely, that's perfectly fine. That I encourage it. Any thought to have a Google Hangout high middle school homeroom type connection mid-morning for announcements, check-in groups? Yeah, that's a great suggestion. That's something we can pass on to Mrs. Lafayette and Mr. Cutler. I think that's good. If the special assignments are going to be assigned and counted, can they be more than busy work? For example, typing 8 minutes a day for technology is a bit ridiculous. So we can check in on that. We don't want it to just be busy work, but we want to have some extension in their learning. Mrs. Howard has been amazing, has been awesome helping with Seesaw. I'm glad to hear that. She is amazing. Is Mrs. Bohr accessible? Yes. Mrs. Lawrence?
Yes, all the counselors are accessible right now. You certainly can reach them through email, and our goal is to have them be working with your students remotely within the next week. So please feel free to send her and any of your students' counselors a check-in, anything that you're concerned about, absolutely.
Thank you. What about students in 6th grade that have missed out on the DARE trip? We'd have to check with Officer Houston on that. I know that they weren't allowed to go on the DARE trip because they were closed. So I'm not sure when that would be lifted, and if there's an opportunity to revisit that in the future. How do we deal with too many using sites at the same time and there being time limits on assignments? So I told staff today that it's okay to put some time limits on assignments, but understand and be flexible that if kids don't get it in on time, that they have additional time to submit it. And again, that goes on additionally, I think, as I told staff, around technology. So some of these sites are getting buried. We had an issue with Google today with our email because they've been inundated and we weren't getting emails appropriately. So those are things we're gonna have to work with and be flexible on. For families that don't have printers, I know there are some print this out complete and send a picture to a teacher on Google Classroom. Can we perhaps consider eliminating this type of work? I will talk to our principals and see what we have there. Are all teachers required to reach out to parents if students are not completing required work? Yes, we are. We want them to reach out. We're also instructing them to contact the principal so they can reach out also. Will senior transcripts be processed timely for colleges? We will do the best we can. Our goal is to get them out in time. I think everyone's going to be in the same position in regards to the transcripts. Every district will be, I think there'll be, if there's any delay, we'll all be in the same boat together, but I anticipate that won't be an issue. This was posted earlier, but with all that is going on, would it make sense for the younger kids to stick together in the next grade for support? That's a great question. It's something I will bring up with the administrative team. The questions are coming fast, so I'm trying to scroll through them. With the no new work Wednesdays, are we expecting there will be enough work Monday and Tuesday that will carry over to Wednesday, or are we expecting Wednesdays as a free day for kids? We expected, and this is primarily at the secondary level, that Wednesday is going to be an opportunity for kids to catch up and continue work. So I anticipate there'll be enough work for them to do over those 3 days, but also to catch up on some work. And it also gives our service providers an opportunity to reach out to students too who need some additional support. Kudos to teachers who reached out for positive comments regarding online work. Nice to see positive comments from teachers. I'm glad that's happened. It would be helpful for weekly assignments, especially for parents who are still actively working. I will pass that on to the administrative team and see if that's something we can do. Do we have a substitute for Mr. Devlin as he is out due to an injury? So I didn't know that he was out on an injury. I'll have to look into that. When will I see IEP children's service plans come out?
I want to be clear, the plans that are coming out are not IEP plans at all. They're totally separate. They're not designed to be an IEP because IEPs are all designed to be implemented during the school period. What it is, it's called a remote learning and service plan, and it's going to talk about trying to provide you with levels of service that typically would be available to kids during a 6.5 day, noted that it's not going to replicate 6.5 hours. So I want to clarify that. Those plans will be coming out as we finish up this school week and beginning of next school week. There's approximately 400 children that receive specialized instruction, especially design instruction, and receive some level of related services within the district. So we're rolling those out. They are in the hands of each team chair, and they are in the hands of our special education providers and teachers, and they're developing as we speak. So you should start to see them toward the end of this week, beginning of next week.
Thank you. Just one clarification, Mrs. Lafayette just texted me. Mr. Devlin is still working, so he is available and can be reached to. All right, so that seems like a majority of the questions. What I'll do is I'll go back and look through some of these, and if I need to, I'll send out a frequently asked questions sheet to try to answer some more of them. Again, I think it's really important, again, reaching out to teachers if you have concerns, reach out to your administrators. You know, let's keep the lines of communication open. Let's get through this together. You know, there's a lot of work that needs to happen, and I want to give kudos to not just all of you as parents. I think you guys are doing a wonderful job. I have 2 kids at home too, and I know how hard it is to manage doing my own work, but also trying to help them through their learning process. It's not easy. So you guys are doing a phenomenal job, and your kids are too. Also to our staff, they've done an excellent job. I can't give them enough kudos. They've worked so hard. And, you know, again, they're feeling the same challenges you are. And, you know, everything I've asked, they have done and have done a tremendous job with. So I really appreciate that. And our administrative team, our principals and our directors have been phenomenal. We're on at least twice a week talking about different questions or different challenges that may arise and how can we address them proactively and to help our kids. So I think that, you know, we're very fortunate to have such a great team of teachers and administrators and parents and kids, you know, going through something that no one could ever anticipate happening to us as a district. Also, our school committee has been wonderful. They've been such a great resource and very supportive in all of this. So I want to say thank you to all of them. I know that Mr. Reed wanted to say something. I just need to find him and unmute him. And I also want to say, if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to email, call, whatever you need to do, and we will help answer any questions you might have. So just bear with me for a second so I can find Mr. Reed. Of course, it won't be easy. We'll do it this way. There we go. Mr. Reed, you're unmuted.
Great. Okay. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. So sorry it was so hard to find. Anyway, first of all, I wanted to thank everyone for calling in and for participating in this very important call today. And thank you, Mr. Morano, for setting this up. Great job. It was a great forum to answer some really important questions. And obviously the questions that we weren't able to address today, I know that you and your team will work on to provide support and to get answers to those things as best we can. I'm so encouraged by the participation in this call. How many people called in, Mr. Morano?
At one point, it was 313.
Yeah, that's really truly amazing. I'm really really impressed and really encouraged to see that level of participation. It's truly remarkable. I've punctuated most of our last couple of meetings with some of these remarks, so I apologize if they're repetitive, but I would feel remiss if we didn't share them because we have so many people out there today to hear them, I hope. Again, Mr. Morano, to you and your administrative team, to all of our district employees and all the capacities that we have, team members, thank you. Okay, we've asked so much of you. We've asked you to transform our school district from a brick and mortar facility to create a virtual learning environment for our kids and a remote learning environment for our kids. And I know that so much has gone into it by all of your team members and you personally. Truly, just boundless dedication, innovation, support, and selflessness from all of our team members have put together this plan. So we're proud of it. We appreciate it. We respect it. And I'm inspired by it, frankly, too. So thank you for all of that to you and your team. What's taken part so far has inspired me, and I'm also hopeful about the things that we're going to accomplish over the next couple of weeks and and perhaps months as we work through this together. So thank you. I would also, to all the students and parents that are out there listening, we recognize and appreciate the unprecedented challenges that are facing all of you. Between worrying about your health and your health of loved ones and those around you, and the significant economic consequences that we're all dealing with, and the uncertain work situations that you're all dealing with, and then to tag on top of that, creating a virtual learning environment in your home. We know that that's a remarkable challenge. I'm so proud of what people have accomplished, and I'm really impressed with the positive attitude that's been put forward and been expressed on countless times. And that's the only way that we're going to get through this together. So you've all shown great patience, great courage, and again, I can't thank you enough for your positive approach to this unprecedented and very difficult situation, and for your support. Okay, we wouldn't be able to do this without the support of our families. So I guess just simply, I don't want to go on and on, but I just wanted you to know on behalf of the school committee that we're here, we're listening, we're doing our best to help you work through these very challenging times, okay, and to help your students successfully navigate their way through this process. We wish you all well. We urge you to be mindful of all the social distancing requirements that we all hear so much. Let's knock this thing down together and let's get our kids back in the building, okay? So that we can try to continue the battle that way. So thank you for this opportunity, Mr. Morano. Great job in executing this. I enjoyed it, and I look forward to working together with you and with our families to try to get through this. Thanks.
Thank you. So one question I just saw pop up real quick. Will I do another one of these in the future? So I think so. My plan is to. So once I get some new information in the coming weeks, we'll do another one of these. I'll post it like I did the last time. And if everyone felt that this was helpful and it gives everybody a chance to connect and ask some great questions. So I would absolutely like to do that. So with that, we'll conclude this Zoom meeting, and thank you all for participating, and stay safe and be well, and don't be afraid to reach out if you need anything. Thanks again, everyone.